Well, hey guys, it's Luetin here, and again, talking about some more Planet Coaster. I'm joined today by Rich, who is one of the producers on Planet Coaster. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm good, thanks everyone. How are everyone? Is everyone okay?
Yep.
How are you? You good?
I'm doing good. We're doing good. We're all good. Everybody's good.
Everyone's good.
We're going to talk some more about the game today. So obviously I got my first look at the game the other day. Loved it. Been playing the game since it came out. Loved it. But we're going to get into a couple more details. I'm going to ask Rich some of the aspects of the game that I maybe haven't spoken about so far. So Rich, first of all, what was your overall sort of goal going into the game? What did you guys want to achieve with Planet Coaster?
Oh, that's a nice easy question to start.
I know, yeah, open-ended, right?
Break me in gently. So we just really wanted to make a really good theme park simulation game. It's been so long since any of us have really played one of those, and we kind of feel like the genre has kind of almost vanished from the games industry. So we thought this is our opportunity now to make one of those games and really invest a lot of expertise and time and dedication into making one of those. And we love those games, so we want to make a really good one so that we'll play it. I mean, if you've seen people in the office are talking about how they get distracted building their parks, especially leading up to the alpha, like making sure those parks that we shipped in the alpha, the first alpha, were really creative and fun to play in, and we kind of, some of the artists kind of got distracted on some of the detail on those, but that's what we want to make. We want to make a game that we will play, and that's great to have a team that's all pulling in that direction, that all want to make these games.
It's one of those games where it feels like it's a bit of a time sink. You know, you sort of start playing and you're like, oh my god, it's been 4 hours, and that's always a really good sign. I think
for us, that's a great thing. We want to make those kind of games. You want to make a game that you don't realize you're playing in a way.
Yes,
almost,
exactly.
That you just get lost in creativity or observing what the guests are doing or anything like that. Just all that detail. Yeah. Just get lost in that. And that's what we want. We want that as well.
Was there anything specifically different that you wanted to try and do to previous sort of park-style games? Anything that you thought, this is something we can do that's new?
Well, the technology's now moved on, so we can make things look nicer. We can now do more. People have faster video cards, faster machines. We can now put prettier rides on guests, coasters. We can do all of that. We can do nicer things with the lighting systems. So the day-night cycle has more impact.
Yeah.
You do that. It's just a thing of time. You couldn't do that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So now we can make a game that's really pretty. And now we can also make games that are deeper on the simulation. We can really make sure that the AI is as deep as possible, because there's a lot less limitation than we used to have. The playable area can now be a lot bigger, even though the game looks prettier. We can, and because there's that trade-off, but we can make the game bigger, and that's exactly what the opportunity we have now to do that. There's a lot less limitations than we used to have. Yeah,
this is a question I keep getting asked. Do you plan to implement, because obviously you've got these parks that some of your guys have made already, are there any plans when the game comes out to sort of pre-create any real world parks? Because I think that's sometimes what people they would love to have a real world park and run it for themselves. Any plans for that kind of thing, or is it going to be a bit more sort of freestyle?
It's going to be a lot more free. Trying to recreate a real world park has a lot of implication on on the real world version. You might sometimes we have to get approval to do that kind of stuff from the real world park. So we'll probably keep it a lot more free and allow the creativity in the office to really shine, because we have so much creativity and art love in the office. We just want those to shine rather than trying to recreate one. But we want to give you the tool so you can do that instead. So I've already seen people trying to recreate Six Flags, I think, in America. Well, I'm not sure it was, but it was, and it's that we want to just give you the tools so that you can do that, and then you could share those. And
there's a lot more tools which are not in the game yet either, so they'll have loads more opportunities. So
we've not even given you like the terrain deformation or the coaster building. Once you obviously can get to the coaster building as it is now, but there's still a lot of work we want to do on it.
It's a very limited version, isn't it?
So we want to give you a version that's doesn't have those limitations and allows you to really just go to town on the coasters.
How optimized do you feel like the game is going to be when we get to that stage, when you get sort of a full-size park, full capacity? Have you been able to test that out yet, or is that something that's going to get looked at through the line? So
basically every time we release a public build, we spend some time optimizing that to make sure the experience for players is as nice as possible. Generally on projects I've worked on, you do a lot of optimization at the end. So once all your features are in, all your art assets are in, basically when the ground isn't moving underneath your feet, that's the time where you can sit down and go, okay, now we can optimize it in this way and we can make big gains that way. So we've done some passes for the first alpha. We'll do it for each alpha build, but a big optimization pass will likely happen just before release of the full game. And that will allow us then to have much bigger areas. So as we go, we'll make sure that the playable area is as big as possible, but there's probably going to be big gains towards the end of the development cycle that allow us to make the game run faster and have more objects in it. So yeah, so we've done some, but more to come.
Awesome, sounds really good. Obviously not specific numbers, but can we expect to see a good variation between rides? So can you really craft parks with a unique sort of feel to them? I'm talking specifically about thrill rides, because we have got some in there, but there's obviously loads more that we can imagine and maybe have seen before. Are we expecting to see a load more of those come through as we go down the line?
Yeah, definitely. With the next focus, we've got some flat rides in, some amusement rides already in, but we want to make sure there's more of those. Obviously, when the coaster building comes in, we want to make sure that you have a wide selection of different coaster types to build with. Thrill rides, extreme rides, gentler rides, to make sure that the simulation has enough variety as well.
Yeah.
So we are definitely looking to make sure there's going to be lots of different coasters, because we want the breadth and width and things, because some people like certain things, some people don't.
Yeah.
We just want to make sure we have all different types to appeal to any person that likes roller coasters. Will hopefully have something they can enjoy.
Yeah, and somebody asked me recently with the thrill ride specifically, and I suppose maybe some of the more extreme but thrill ride styles, they make a pretty strong element of the park. I mean, they're kind of like the bread and butter element of the park, and then the coasters are your big showpieces, right? And whilst the thrill rides can be interesting, sometimes it feels a little bit like you're just kind of dropping them in and done. Other than adjusting the colours, do you think we could maybe see other ways to make interest in those thrill rides? I think modular building is the obvious one there, because you can really do more with that than you ever could before, and a lot of the sort of intersecting beautification objects and stuff. What would you say to people who are kind of asking about that? Because I've been asked quite a lot about that in terms of, how can we make the thrill rides more, I guess, encompassing and involving?
Yeah, so we want to be able to provide you with the tools to make those thrill rides as varied as possible. Combining with the modular scenery system isn't an easy technical thing for us to achieve. It's something we are going to look into. What we're going to provide you is stuff like, at the minute, the thrill rides work on a basic operation sequence. So they start up, they wind down, and in the middle there's a few different animations they play. What we're going to hopefully give you guys is the ability to alter those sequences. So if you want the rides to start up, and then instead of doing two, for instance on the forward, instead of having the arms go to the top, like go upright and then spin twice, you can change that. You can change the way in which the animations are played, like the sequence the animations are played. And by doing that, you're going to adjust the excitement levels and the nausea levels of those thrill rides. So you can then customize the simulation values of the thrill rides as they affect your guests. So we want to provide you that stuff, as well as the color changing. But that's our current plan. We'll look into adding more detail and more customization into the thrill rides and the flat rides. But currently, that's our current plan. But we're definitely open to adding more stuff as we get to it, if we think we need it.
That's a really good plan. I like the sound of that a lot, and it's something actually I hadn't really heard many people suggest either. So I think that's a really good kind of creative solution there. Are you going to add scaling features for park design objects? Again, we're talking about like rocks, trees, etc. Because sometimes you kind of have a good style of rock, but you can like, we want to make that a lot bigger. Is that going to be something that's in there, or is that not on the radar?
It's currently not on the radar, but it's something we're going to technically look at to see how feasible it is, if there's such a big outcry for it. We're working in partnership with our art team on the project, so if it's something they think they'll need as well. So it's not something that's currently on the radar, but we'll definitely spend time to look into each of these things. We don't just instantly dismiss them. We do spend time to look at the technical aspects and to see, is it a worthwhile investment to make the game better? So, it's definitely a good idea, but at the minute it's not on the radar. Cool,
that's good to know. Will there be limitations of how many objects can actually be placed in the park? Again, rocks, trees, beautification objects. Is there going to be a sort of cap for that, or
we
is it just?
We don't want there to be. No, not at all. So the alpha doesn't have one, and our intention is that the game will never need one. I've worked with previous games where you get the power limit or some other arbitrary way of measuring how much things are in your park to limit that. What we're wanting to do is not have anything like that. The only limitation being probably how powerful your machine is. Yeah. If the frame rate suddenly starts tanking, then that's on. But that we don't want to provide any arbitrary limitation into what players can build. We from the outset we don't want those limiters in. So
I think providing you're designing in a sort of not extremely insane way as well, you should be fairly capable, I would imagine, is not going too insane with it and so on and so on.
Yeah, so we want it so that you can build really beautiful, detailed, dense parks, But if you spend time copy and pasting a small rock millions of times, that's on you.
Yeah.
So,
Burn out your CPU.
but we want to make sure you can build these beautiful parks, and that's our intention. So we don't want to have those kind of limitations in either.
We haven't got the terrain mechanics in the alpha yet, but will there be limitations on height, specifically for where you can place a ride to begin? So, for example, could you place like a coaster up on a man-made mountain or cliff, and then have the visitors walk up, or maybe even get a transport when we potentially have transport stuff in the game?
There's
no
limitation
drop
that
it
we're
down.
planning for that stuff.
Cool.
You will be able to build as high as low as possible. So in the parks you've got now, some of them have different heights. So I think there's a couple of canyon ones that have a low floor on them that you can go down into and build on.
Yeah.
So the playable area, instead of being a flat plane, is essentially a volume now, and we want to keep that volume. So with the terrain tools, you're going to be able to sculpt up or sculpt down in that volume. So currently there's a limitation width and length, and we're going to have depth and height as well. So there will be a boundary up and down, but we're hoping it's a nice high one and a nice low one, so you can have that whole volume to build in. And the terrain deformation tools hopefully won't have any of those limitations in. Like you won't be limited by if you want to put it on the floor or on the as high as possible. That'll be fine.
Cool.
Yes, you can build a very steep pathway to a coaster at the top of a massive cliff. That's something. It
sounds awesome. Yeah, because I really wanted like a death coaster that just drops down off a cliff and then rolls back up or something. So much you could do with it. Water is another element on the horizon. Will we see water-based rides, things like boats for people to ride on, or even, I do remember that there was an orca show with dolphins back in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. That might not be so politically correct right now, but any thoughts on things like that?
We are looking into flat rides, definitely. I love flat rides. Log flumes are my favourite one, especially in summer. Water rides is something we want to look into, but we don't want to spend a small amount of time to just tick a box to say, oh, we have water rides. We want to do these things properly, and we'll make sure that when we give you water rides are creative and they're beautiful and they're just as good as we can make them. At the minute, the plan for water rides is to not have a large amount of them currently, but details are going to come about water rides probably in the future. But we are definitely looking into water rides and how we can make those work in the game with the coaster builder as well.
Yeah, because water rides are definitely some of my favourite, especially like the big sort of ring rapids, you get the big sort of ring turning around. And I always really loved those in the older games, but they kind of never went far enough for me in the kind of creativity of what I could do with them. You could always sort of place them down and set the path, and it would go through some little flumes and things like this, but I was always like, oh, can't we push it further? Can't we have like big waterfalls or like proper sort of undulating up and down and all sorts of elements there? It would be really cool to have in there.
Yeah, and exactly. That's how we look at things as well. We don't want to give you something that you guys will look at and go, oh, why it could be better.
Yeah, sure.
It could be this way. Just we want to make sure that the things you're asking for, if you look at one of a feature, you look at it and go, once it's in the final game, you look at it and go, man, it's really awesome, but it just needs a small bits of extra. We don't want to give you something that's just good or average and you come up with a massive list of things to make it better. We want to be able to make sure that we've done the good job. And as you say, water rides, if we gave you a half measure, it wouldn't be really worthwhile doing. We want to make sure we give you the whole hog, as it were. So water ride details will come later as we get through the alpha period and closer to release of the full game. But at the minute, I've not got many details to share.
Cool. Another little technical thing here, path clipping. Now again, we're very early alpha and I'm aware of this, but I just wanted to ask, having sort of adaptable, moldable terrain is brilliant for creation, but I've noticed in my park already that sometimes when there's kind of a gentleish slope, it's quite difficult to get the path to sort of map onto that terrain where it should be able to, and instead I have to kind of raise it up and then down, and it can kind of clip in and stuff. I assume that these are things that are all just kind of in the process of being sort of smoothed out, and we'll get more kind of sort of ability to kind of naturally mold paths in that way.
Yeah, definitely. The way the path system and the terrain system work, it was technically a big problem not a big problem, but a big challenge for us. Sure. And we spent a lot of time making sure that the terrain deformation and the path system can work together in unison. There are bugs with it. We are aware of them. We're going to work through them. We want to make it as beautiful as possible for you to build your path, especially in the future alphas when the terrain deformation comes.
Yeah.
We need it to work well with the path system. So we're going to address those and hopefully fix those issues over the next few months. So when you guys get them, it should be gone.
Also, with the pathing system, in again previous iterations of sort of theme park roller coaster games, you could often, when you set a steeper path, instead of just being a steep path, it would actually be stepped. And also, there was sometimes you could even do like multiple stacked spiral staircases and things. Are there plans to put in any things like that?
Yep, definitely. Stairs is something we'll hopefully be addressing soon. I think probably will the staircases as well. We definitely want to change it so that when you go to those highest inclinations or declines, they switch to stair models. That's definitely something we're going to do.
Cool. How in-depth will the economy mechanics be? We're playing in the free mode right now, which is quite different, of course. But I always felt that with these games, you could have a light and a kind of full version of the economy for people who want like a real challenge, where you get into like really tuning wages in the park, and that becomes a significant factor. Will we have also, with that, like customization levels in the shops? We had that previously, but again, more so to do with the toppings on food, drink stuff, different sizes for shirts and shop things, and have that make like a real impact on the income for what your patrons want. Again, like when I played previous roller coaster tycoon sort of style games, you could adjust some of those elements, but it never felt like it actually had like a really significant impact on my sort of income in the park. Are you guys looking into those sort of in-depth elements with the economy?
Yes, definitely. I want to make sure that we're going to have stuff like where you be able to make sure your staff and your shops are happy by their wages. If they're not being paid enough, they won't be happy. If they're not happy enough, they won't serve well. If they don't serve well, you're not going to get that turnover of money in from those shops. So you need to make sure that your staff are happy. We're going to have wages, training, the detail on the shops. Yeah, we're hoping for you to be able to adjust the toppings on your food and see that affect your income economy as well. All those things in the customization, all those things we're going to hopefully do in the simulation. We're going to make sure the simulation is as deep and as powerful as possible. Yeah. Especially for me, it's something that is close to my heart as well. I want a deep economy management system, because it feels like it's been a long time since I've played a simulation game of a creative that has that. So I grew up playing theme park. That was my theme game. Theme park growing up, no, rather than RCT3. But I love that kind of detail. So that's something we're definitely going to be looking into, and hopefully have all that detail in. Yes.
And you think that you're going to create like that to be sort of easy in some respects, but very, very challenging in others? Because I think a lot of people more and more now, and especially kind of, my viewers and gamers that I know, want like a hard challenge. And obviously this in many ways is kind of a relaxing, enjoyable simulation game. It's quite fun and characterful. But at the same time, it's like, when you have a game that you enjoy in this way, you still want to have something that you can really get your teeth into and have a big challenge with. Is that, a goal that you guys are looking at?
Yeah, definitely. We want to make sure that the economy in its simple, in like a high level version of it, of people are hungry. These guys, people put a shop down, make sure the guests, the staff are happy. Then your income goes up. Your guests are happy. But if from a high level, that anyone without who wants that complexity can just grasp those basics.
Yeah, sure.
And that they get that positive feedback in the economy. But those people that really want to drill down and eke out that extra bit of money by adjusting the detail can do that as well. So we want to make sure that there's this high level thing that is understandable and can be done by anyone. But those that really want to drill down will have aspects that they can adjust on a micro level to just eke out that extra bit of income and the change in the economy balance, and to really maximize how much money they're making in their parks, and making sure that they're really making the guests happy. And all those values we'll hopefully have. Yes.
Yeah. And again, sort of, I guess alongside that, would there be sort of marketing aspects to the game? And would you maybe have like a park campaign sort of manager tab or something like this, where you can run marketing aspects? Maybe you get negative publicity. Maybe if some people get sick from eating some of your food, or there's a ride which is, but I mean, people keep asking about the height limits on roller coasters, and you think like, it'd be great to build a really insane full-on extreme ride, but at the same time, if every single person coming off of that ride is physically sick every single time, that would probably be quite a negative publicity for your park. And I remember again in older sort of theme park style games, you would often have like a reviewer. He would come around and check your park and ride the rides and see what he thought and go away, and then that could affect sort of the amount of people coming in and therefore the money you make. Are there going to be elements like that?
Yeah, we're hoping to have that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, it used to be the park inspector. He was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
guy that came around. He used to have the VIPs as well. Man, those are things
You come round when you had like 3 rides broken, and you're
Yeah.
like, like.
Those are things we are looking into and seeing if we can involve those in the simulation system. And we're going to have stuff like advertising campaigns, we hope, as well, so you can spend extra to get yourself a temporary boost
Yeah.
in guests coming in. There are those kind of things on the simulation side that, yeah, we're definitely looking into.
Cool. Are you planning also maybe campaign missions? So, I mean, there's the classic sort of turning around a failing park and you only have limited sort of money. I mean, those are all things where, again, it's not just about managing your money, but actually managing your money and then making the most of it in order to sort of fix things up, turn things around. I imagine that we'll have some elements like that. And are you guys sort of, again, you have a team sort of pushing that side of things to really sort of try and create some interesting challenges for people?
Yeah, so we're definitely, the current plan is to have a campaign or scenario mode, as well as challenge modes and sandbox modes. So you would have those kind of parks where, you know, you would have you'd get thrown into the deep end, as it were, and then you had to rescue the park up. And our plans is to have those kind of situations, but you're going to be limited as well. So, you know, there's some challenging aspects that you might only be able to build pirate things or those kind of those things, those values and details of the economy that we can tweak. And we can limit off to make the game more challenging for you. So it's not just, here's everything unlocked, build whatever you want to rescue these parks. There's going to be limitations for those. But yeah, a campaign mode is something we are looking into, yes. Because I find those really exciting. I love campaign modes. The sandbox modes, I get limited by my own creativity quite fast. I'm all about the campaign modes.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Also, when it comes to creating your own parks, now obviously you're going to be able to edit from scratch your own park, share it with other people in-game, and so that people can search for you, I can share with my viewers and things, parks that I've created. But alongside that, I mean, creating the park is great, and that'd be really fantastic, but would you be able to perhaps set challenges for those maps and then post them out there for people to do and sort of tweak that in some, you know, detailed way? Would you be able to do things like that?
It's a good idea. It's not something we've really spoken about them. Our first step is to make sure we have the blueprints and the community system in place. But it's a great idea. It's probably something we will look into. Yeah, sure. In the future. But yeah, I can imagine that kind of stuff really takes the sharing aspect to a whole new level. Here's my almost. It's like saving out a campaign level, as it were. And so, it's definitely something we will look into in the future. But once we've got the basics in of the sharing and the community aspects.
It would be very much like sort of with Portal, when Portal had its sort of map creation stuff and sharing in that aspect, and then, you know, people are rating that on Steam, and that's like, you know, it's a real challenge because Portal was obviously a game which was massively challenging for people and trying to create those kind of challenges. And this is something that I could very much imagine with this game because, again, in previous games, you know, Roller Coaster Tycoon 3, Theme Park, etc., you never had the ability to share and put those things out there. And I think that, again, whilst obviously we need to get everything sorted in the game and there's loads of priorities there, far down the line in the future, I think that's something which would be a massive tool because obviously, you know, with any game you can have DLCs, etc., but this would be a great thing. I can imagine if you put challenges in there for the community and said, okay, like design a map and then set parameters about what has to happen here, or they can only use certain things for this map to try and keep it in theme or whatever, I think people would go crazy with that. You know, I think it could be a really, really awesome thing. And again, people would rate it up and down depending on which were the most enjoyable or the most challenging and the most difficult. So you could go in there and be like, okay, I want to do a really difficult challenge today. I'm going to take on this map or whatever. I mean, that could be really awesome. Great for creators as well, YouTube producers and streamers and things, because they could set like, you know, maybe even like little mini competitions, like who's the first to complete this or something. You know, just the imagination is endless, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. So on the last project I worked on, Scream Ride, we actually had that system. It wasn't, the game didn't sell as many copies as I think we hoped, but that system was something we had. You could make your own custom campaign levels and alter all the challenge settings, and we could share those levels. So we have done games like that in the past. Yeah. So it is something we've got experience on how to do. Yeah. But we want to make sure. Yeah, it's a great idea. It'd be so powerful. I can imagine it being so popular. But as I say, we want to make sure we get the game itself good first. Yeah. Otherwise, there won't be that many people that are sharing it. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sure. Is there any way you could sort of visualize for people how big you'll be able to make the parks? I mean, is that even decided yet?
It's not decided. It's almost like it's a moving set of goalposts, as it were. As the game gets done, as we get more and more content in, and we get more and more of the systems in place, we then have more knowledge of how big everything's going to be. So we're definitely hoping to make it a lot bigger.
Cool. Okay, let's do last question. This is always fun. So, if you could speculatively being the key word, create anything for a Planet Coaster DLC, what would you make?
I think I'd do anything.
Anything, yeah. Could be done or could be not done.
I'd love to do something with the Star Wars IP.
Wow, yeah, that would be epic.
That'd be really cool, especially with the terrain deformation, to just be able to create environments like Hoth and put some coasters in a Hoth-like situation, or Tatooine or Dagobah, anything like that. I would love that.
Yeah.
Just and get into more of the scenery pieces from that universe.
Time to get on the phone to Disney.
Yeah, well,
it would be amazing, just like your imagination runs wild just thinking about all those kind of things. Actually, let's just talk really quickly, really last question, double last question. So the park terrain types. So we've got like the beautiful lush environment. Now, obviously you're going to have obvious stuff like desert. You're going to have things like Arctic, maybe lava, volcanoes. Like,
I love the idea of lava. The actual biome types haven't been decided yet, but yeah, you're right. We're going to probably move on to the obvious ones like desert next.
Yeah.
But because the globe is going to be so central to the game, you want to use the globe as a starting point for where you select your park. So you'll pick your position on the globe, so the park that then loads up needs to be representative of that. So you're going to have anywhere in the world to build your park. So we want to make sure that the skirts and the biome support that. So yes, we'll probably do desert and maybe ice levels and all sorts of different ones. But yeah, lava's a cool one. I think lava's definitely be fun. I like that one.
You could have all sort of Hawaiian tiki style things, couldn't you, alongside that, or maybe just go really sort of dark with it. I don't know. Any directions. Much you could do.
There's so much we can do. That's the thing. There's so much we can do. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Cool. All right, Rich. Thank you very much for talking to us today about Planet Coaster.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.